The last of her kind, bleeding starlight from torn wings, staggered through the ruined canyon beneath 2 fractured moons. Clutched against her chest, 3 frozen dragonlings, still as death, their scales rimed with galactic frost. She didn't know the human's name, only that his heartbeat had called to her across the void. And sometimes, desperate mothers gamble with monsters. Out of desperation, she carried her frozen dragon babies to a human. What he did changed everything. Once, the dragons soared between worlds. They wove constellations with their breath and seeded suns from the ash of their bones. But time, merciless and grinding, broke even their myth. The galaxies spun on, new empires rose, and the old magic dimmed to legends stored in ancient satellites and whispered around alien fires. But she remembered. She was called Cerinthala, born of solar flame and the last matriarch of the Thalkarai brood. Her clutch of 3, Nyrr, Soli, and the runt, Ithil, were meant to begin a renewal, not an ending. Then the cryostorm came. A weapon, the humans called it. Something left behind by a long-dead war of theirs. A failed terraforming system turned rogue. It blanketed her world in absolute zero in seconds. No fire, no breath, no escape. Except for her. And the tiny forms she managed to shield with the last of her heat before the cold took them too. She had only one hope. A signal, an echo in her mind, of a human who did not fear dragons. A human whose heartbeat pulsed like music across her fading consciousness. She followed it, blindly, flying for days across shattered moons and dying stars, until her wings gave out and gravity pulled her to a small blue-green planet. To Earth. His name was Elias Rhane. Former xenobiologist, now a recluse. He had once traveled the galaxies, cataloging extinct species, healing wounded fauna, and refusing to participate in the wars that followed the collapse of the interstellar accord. The universe had no place for kindness anymore, so he'd left it behind, choosing instead to live alone in a forgotten observatory in the Alaskan tundra. That night, he felt it in his bones, something ancient, something sacred. The wind howled, and the auroras flared blood-red. And then, like a comet fallen too slow, she crashed into the snow, her body smoldering, her claws cradling what looked like. No, not corpses. Children. Elias didn't scream, didn't run. He stepped into the circle of her final breath and knelt. "I'm not here to hurt you," he whispered. Her voice came as static, layered over a broken translator crystal embedded in her jaw. Help them. He didn't ask questions. He didn't flinch at her sighs or the fire leaking from her eyes. He saw only 3 small, stone-still forms, and the mother willing to die for them. "I will." And then she died. Elias worked like a man possessed. For days, he didn't sleep. He examined the frozen dragonlings with precision and reverence. Their scales bore crystalline fractals, damage from deep cryogenic trauma. Their hearts had stopped, but their cells had not decayed. Stasis, he realized. Magical? Biological? He didn't know, and he didn't care. He brought out every illegal piece of tech he'd salvaged. Nanoforges, molecular printers, a microfusion core to generate the heat of a star, and the last living vial of Ignis Vitae, a mythical compound he'd synthesized during his years as a xenobiologist, designed to reignite extinct circulatory systems. He wrapped the dragonlings in thermal cocoons, injected the serum, set the microsuns into motion. He whispered stories to them while he worked, human stories, fairy tales, and lullabies. "You're not allowed to die," he said. "Your mother crossed the stars to find me. That means I owe her everything." The first twitch came after 41 hours. Soli opened one eye. Then Ithil curled a claw. Then Nyrr's chest heaved once, twice, and he screamed flame into the frozen night. Elias fell to his knees, tears steaming on his cheeks. They were alive. Dragons hadn't been seen in recorded human history. Rumors, myths, nothing concrete. And yet, satellite footage from Elias's observatory soon leaked. 3 juvenile dragons, flying through the sky like meteors made of fire and light. Governments panicked. Militaries mobilized. Corporations wanted samples. Weapons. Hybrid tech. But Elias had prepared. The observatory vanished under a cloaking field. He sent a broadcast to the world. "They are children. They are not weapons. Their mother died saving them. If you come for them with violence, I will show you just how dangerous a peaceful man can be. The feed cut, and humanity paused. Dragons, Elias discovered, learned fast. NYRR was the bold one, experimenting with his fire breath on scrap metal. Solely liked to perch and observe, listening to classical music and mimicking human speech. Ithel, the smallest, spent hours curled beside Elias, watching him work and humming low notes that made the plants bloom early. They weren't beasts. They were intelligent, emotional, curious. And Elias began to hope again. He taught them language, ethics, humor. He told them about their mother, about what she'd done to save them, about how love was the most powerful magic in the universe, even stronger than dragon fire. They listened, and they remembered. It couldn't last. A Black Ops unit, hired by the defunct Terran Weapons Division, breached the observatory's shield with an anti-magic EMP. They came in with stealth mechs and cryoguns, intent on extracting biological assets. Elias stood at the door, unarmed. "This is a mistake," he said. They didn't listen. The first shot grazed Ithel. He screamed, and the other two dragons roared. The world learned something that day. Dragons are peaceful by choice, not by nature. Soli melted the mech armor midair. NYRR tore through the ice tanks like paper. Ithel, wounded, unleashed a sonic cry that shattered bones and minds. Elias didn't stop them. He only shielded the attackers once they surrendered. And then he broadcast again. "I gave you a chance. I begged you to see them as children. If you come again, they will not spare you. And I will not stop them." The attack changed everything. The public rose in fury. Protests exploded across cities. Let the dragons live. Elias's message had struck a nerve. Humanity, burdened by its own destructive history, saw in these creatures something rare: innocence, wonder, redemption. A movement was born. Thousands volunteered to protect the observatory. Scientists offered to learn with, not from. Children sent drawings. Musicians composed songs. Poets wrote epics. Humanity had rediscovered reverence. For life. For magic. For hope. The dragons grew. They no longer fit in the observatory. They flew across the continents, not as monsters, but as emissaries, carriers of their mother's legacy. They healed oceans, melted polar toxins, ignited forests reborn, and they always returned to Elias. He was older now, slower, but when he sat beneath the auroras, they curled around him like warmth itself. "You saved us," Ithel said one night, speaking flawless English now. Elias smiled. "No, your mother did. I just listened." Soli rested her head near his lap. "You were the first human not to fear us. And you were the first dragons not to eat me," he chuckled. NYRR snorted smoke. "We considered it." They laughed, human and dragon, forged not by blood, but by choice. Elias died in his sleep, years later, surrounded by the three beings he loved more than life. But his legacy did not end. The dragons did something no one expected. They flew to the same ruined canyon where their mother had died. And there, with the help of human scientists and ancient magic, they wove something impossible. A cradle of fire and frost. Inside it, hundreds of eggs. Not clones. Not weapons. Children. The next generation of dragons, born not from fear, but from love. And on every egg, carved in both Draconic and English, were the words, "Out of desperation, she carried us to a human." What he did changed everything.